Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 3 for 1 Sky Fantasy podcast from Fantasy Football Hub. Paul, it's been a while. I don't feel like I've spoken to you. I think my life's been a lot grimmer these last few weeks since we last spoke, and it's good to have you back.
Corporate before we came online.
You are corporate. You and your bloody cheesy lines. For those that like Paul's got some fancy Dan job as a tech director or something now. He's at it for a while, and I've noticed since that, was it Dan or Paul I said then? I don't know what I said. He said Fancy Dan. Fancy Dan. Yeah, Paul. So now even in text, he started using corporate cliches. I don't disagrry. I just don't get it, mate. I agree. Anyway, how was your break, and how was your Sky weekend?
Yeah, it was a good break, thanks. It's weird coming back from an international break where we lost twice and still had a successful time.
Yeah, congratulations. Is the camper van en route, or?
I have booked free cancellation accommodation just in case as a backup, so I am going regardless if it's if we get a camper or not.
Well done, mate. How's your Sky team been doing?
I mean, I thought I'd done okay at the weekend, but I think I've mentioned it a few times recently and last season as well. The template in this game is fine if you're on the template early, but when you're chasing rank, the template's not good if you're not on it yet. So, I feel like I had a good weekend. I captained Haaland on Saturday, but I had Salah and brought in and captained Watkins yesterday, but found that I wasn't going up in rank. So I've played the game long enough to know that the game's not won in the first 9-10 weeks of the season. So I'm okay. I'm not disheartened or anything. I just know over kind of Christmas time that I'm hoping to make rank gains then.
Yeah, good stuff. Had similar sort of weekend. I don't think I may have lost a few hundred places, but I think you had Alvarez, didn't you? When you moved him on, I didn't have Alvarez. So I can't remember which players I had actually, which kind of did me well. But very average week. I do have Maddison and Son tonight, and I think I'm bringing Romero in as well. So I'm pretty hopeful that for today and Friday, if things go to plan, could have quite a healthy bump before I shift my team around a little bit. So excited.
Saka's ownership's quite low, and I think you still got Saka, right?
Yeah.
And when you add in his tackle bonus that he got overnight last night,
right.
takes him up to 7 points. So it was a welcome return. Reward for holding on to him, and I know a lot of people had moved him on.
Yeah, I've been a bit, I wouldn't say reckless with transfers. I was away a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned this on last week's pod, and I kind of raged out on Nana for Alisson. And because I was out of the country and I was, not really kind of focusing on it, I probably didn't plan as much as I should have. And I think I might have to move Alisson on this evening to be able to reshape my team a little bit. Sadly, not to a Fulham or Spurs player, but I need to reduce some operational costs just to coin a Paul phrase on a
And for the record, I have not used that term.
You haven't used that term. But I need to reduce some operational costs in my team to be able to afford who I want in the next few weeks. So he's going to have to go. But anyway, welcome everyone in the chat. Samarundo. If you don't have Saka, is he a must the next run of fixtures? We're going to talk about Saka in a bit. He also asks about Colwell to Romero and Pope to Leno. We're gonna cover all the ins and outs in a little while. Windy is in as usual. Darren Skidmore, Dave Hannigan, Manchester, Paul Kendo, Bobby Shearer, Notrag, Alan Jago, Gary Plant, Rich Darley, John Acornley, asking who to captain of Madison and Son. We'll talk about that in a bit. Geo Boys, Jason Manners, Andy Bayliss, Sam D. Taylor, Paul Kendo, and so many more. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Carl JB says, evening, chaps. First time we've been able to make it live this season. Welcome back, Carl. Great to have you with us. And just a big thanks to Ian, who joined us last week while Paul was away, no doubt, making loads of businessy cliches somewhere. But yeah, it's great to have Ian on. It's been a while. But yeah, let's get straight into it, Paul. We've got the fixture calendar up for the next few weeks. The obvious highlight straight away. Spurs play twice now. before anyone else. So anyone with a couple of Spurs players looking good. But what are your take for the next few weeks?
This is a period of time where we said West Ham and Villa had very, very strong fixture runs. So a lot of people made the move to get on Watkins yesterday, some Diaby, some Cash, some Martinez, I guess. And then from West Ham's point of view, I think Bowen and Areola, based only on Areola's price more than anything, were the two main ones from West Ham. Perhaps a few brought on James Ward-Prowse as well. But yeah, all those teams have got a really strong run just now, as do Liverpool as well. And I know Tsimikas, I was maybe a little bit cool on him. I want to see how he performed in his first game. I'm not ruling out getting him next Sunday. He's not on my immediate plan, but now with Robertson out for the 12 weeks or whatever the prognosis or the timeline is on the injury, I'm sure he'll do well till the overhaul and tick along nicely as well, even though he got hooked after kind of 61, 62 minutes. So he just made it. That might be with the European fixture, if they've not got a backup left back to play, I guess he could be doing double duty. So that might just be to save his legs a little bit. So I think they are all decent options in this run. It'll be interesting to see what people do with Spurs after Friday. We know that all those teams that I just mentioned have got great fixtures, and if people are doubling or tripling up on Spurs, I could see perhaps a few moving off to maybe free up some money to make future moves as well. I've got 2 Spurs players. I'm going to bring in Romero tonight to make it 3. I'm going to captain Son. I just think that if you look at all the polls that were done, people all know the way that I play. I always captain the most captained player, and that way I've got less regret on the moves, and hopefully the other players still do well, but the fact that they're owned or captained less would pick me up in ranks, even if they did outperform Son over that. We know Son's getting taken off early-ish in games recently, so I'm playing it that way just to hedge my bets.
Would you captain Son if it was confirmed he was playing on the left, because he was kind of largely ineffective at the start of the season on the left?
I think I'd captain Romero. I think I'd captain Romero over Maddison if they were only 2 options as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Can you just speak a little bit more into the mic, mate? Just in terms of looking at some players, so we had lots of questions. Thank you so much for those. So we've grouped a few of them up. In terms of players out, we've had a lot of questions. I'll go through them one by one. Firstly, Sanchez was a lot more popular than I realised. In the kind of Twitter community, and a lot were talking about potentially moving off him now the fixtures for Chelsea get a bit tough. They've got Brentford this Saturday, but after that they go Spurs, Man City, Newcastle, Brighton and United, which is pretty horrific. And similarly, Onana, even though the fixtures still continue to be good, he can't seem to keep a clean sheet no matter who they play. They do have Man City next Sunday, but then they do have Fulham, Luton, Everton. Then they go Newcastle, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Liverpool, West Ham. So quite tough for a while after that. So what are your thoughts on these keepers, and I suppose in keepers in general?
Yeah, I'm not adverse to making a keeper transfer. I think there's a lot of value in keepers anyway, and particularly when you've got the single game days where, a clean sheet doubled up, 18 points minimum. So, and with Chelsea and with Sanchez in particular, plays Saturday this week coming up. And then on Sunday, there's 10 teams to choose from, of which most have good fixture runs as well. So we just mentioned West Ham and Aston Villa there. Both of them play on Sunday, so the move to Martinez or Areola could get made there. Also, Leno could be a good shout. They play Brighton away, which, isn't an ideal fixture on Sunday, but Leno does pick up saves bonus quite a lot. And then that's with sight of having the single game day against Wolves coming up as well. Again, I think if you're coming off Sanchez, it has to be next week, in my opinion, because they play Spurs the following Monday, and then they play City the following Sunday. So there's no fixture gains to be made on either of those. So it's all really team dependent based on the budget and what your future plans are. If you can afford a higher price point, then you've got Liverpool at home to Nottingham Forest on Sunday as well, so you could move on to Alisson. But my preference would be probably Areola or Martinez. from those.
Lovely job. Another player lighting many of our teams at the moment is Jordan Bayer. A few people had him anyway, and a lot of people, including myself, and I think maybe yourself, moved him in for the single game day captaincy against Luton, which he duly blanked in. Looks like, so he's missed a couple of games now. We can't really see an ETA for him coming back, and I didn't realise that it was pointed out to me his injury record is also pretty bad, like Darren Anderton-esque.
Someone last week's pod. I listened to last week's pod when I was away, and I recall that quote, and then I had a look myself, and that is true. So,
but yeah, what are your thoughts on his replacements? Because of his price point is quite tough, and the fact he's a defender as well. So those with three at the back have got a bit of a problem, haven't they? Maybe.
Yeah, because Chelsea do have really good fixtures, and I think if I was picking a budget enabler now, I'd probably pick Cole Palmer over Nakamba, even though he's 6.5 and there's nobody else at that price to move him on to.
I think you meant hard fixtures and not good, did you, for Chelsea? Sorry.
Yeah, they have got hard fixtures, but as a 6.5 midfielder, you're not getting negative points from conceding goals, and then it's been confirmed that he's on penalties now. I know that there was still a debate, and they thought maybe he took the penalty against Fulham based on it being his first goal for the club. But it does look like he's cemented his place on taking penalties for Chelsea as well. So if the formation allowed, I'm moving Bayer on to, it's him that's making way for Romero for me tonight. So I'd always be keen, if you didn't fancy getting Palmer or formation didn't allow, that I would use it as part of a double move, and by downgrading a player and freeing up the money, perhaps after next Friday, if you're holding 2 or 3 Spurs and you didn't want to continue with that, downgrading one of your Spurs assets to another player and then freeing up some money to upgrade Bayer elsewhere.
Who would
probably be my preferred.
Who would you pick now if you didn't have Nakamba? Would you go for Nakamba or Palmer?
I'd go for Palmer, I think.
You would do?
I think so. Campbell's on free bookings now. It feels like I've been defending him for 9 weeks, and now I'm certainly not slaying him. I'm happy. I'm not going to make the sideways, what I deem as a sideways move with Chelsea's poor fixtures just now. But if I had to get a budget enabler right now to help free up funds for the rest of my team to move things around, I'd probably go Palmer, I think.
We're a fickle bunch, fantasy managers. Nakamba didn't return for a couple of games at the start, and not all, but a lot of people, get rid of him. He returns a few games on the trot, and he's the best thing since sliced bread. Doesn't return in one game, get rid of him, bad option.
I didn't say that's not what I said though. I didn't say get rid of him. I said I'm holding him.
I did say we're a fickle bunch.
If we were picking a budget asset right now, it looks like Cole Palmer's nailed his place in that Chelsea team, and I think that I would go there. So I guess an option could be, like, if you've got a Spurs player and you've got Bayer in your team and you don't want to make a move or just now want to think about, play the 2 Spurs games and then decide which one of your Spurs players you want to downgrade. You could downgrade the Spurs player to Palmer or someone or another budget enabler, and then that frees up the money to do Bayer to someone that's a mid-priced option, Diaby or Bowen perhaps, or whatever our budget would allow then.
And the final 2 on this, we've got Maddison, who's done okay for owners. Obviously got the game this evening. He's got the game on Friday as well. But after that, a lot of games have a 2 for 0 over them, and obviously then subsequent kind of 4 for 2s and things. A lot of people wonder whether to get rid of Son or Maddison if they own one or even both or wherever else. I suppose, firstly, would you get rid of Son or Maddison? I know it's kind of hard to say before the evening's game, but as it stands,
before the two games,
yeah, exactly. But as it stands, would you get rid of Son or Maddison, and who for? Who would be the player? Because obviously we'll look on the next slide now, actually, at a few players. But what are your thoughts on who to get rid of? Right
now, I'd lose Maddison, but I am willing to look at the next 2 games and look at Son's minutes. If Spurs get a penalty, is it Son taking it? We all think that Son's on penalties, and there's a few other elements as well. But Maddison's been a more consistent returner than Son has, and Son's hauls have come in short spurts. So yeah, I'm willing to take the two. I've got both, so it's almost like free information for me now over the next two games, and then make a decision if I'm going to downgrade one of them. I guess people will be doing that primarily because Saka's ownership's so low, and then trying to get back to Saka next Saturday. I think, yeah, Saturday they're at home at Sheffield United, and I think Saka for me is the standout captaincy option next Saturday. So yeah, I can understand why people are looking to do it.
And Ruben Dias plagued many teams now. City defenders have in general for a couple of seasons now. Time to move him on as well.
Yeah, it's just City defence just seemed to like frustrate, like all of them. Like Diaz was the one that was the least frustrating, and now he was dropped, and yeah, I think he's dispensable now with City's run of fixtures, and I can imagine the Diaz to Maddison/Son, whoever someone doesn't own, and then on to Saka might be a popular daisy chain move, I think, or even on to Saliba if nobody owns as well.
And just before we move on to players we're looking to bring in, you kind of mentioned around Newcastle players, and I think are you making the same mistake as last year?
Well, yeah. So it's not the same mistake I made last year, but I didn't need to worry about it. So the scenario was that, like, at the overhaul, I started with Pope, and it was like a Pope Ederson kind of 50-50 call, and I started with Pope. And the reason I started with him was that he was primarily playing the Saturdays, and I knew that I could move on to Ederson, who was playing Man City were playing a lot of the Sundays. I've told the story a few times before, but I often got messages on DMs on a weekly basis saying, should I swap Ederson to Pope? And honestly, in my opinion, if I was in that situation, I wouldn't have. But now I feel like I'm in the same situation now with Newcastle defence, and that they're performing so well, and this is a reason why I can't increase in rank. And you look at players, and I had the opportunity to move Onana to Pope, and in hindsight, maybe I should have. But now I'm thinking more on Trippier's side. So I didn't think that Trippier was a great Sky asset because of the lack of base of guaranteed bonus returns, but he's now returned passing in 5 of his last 6 games, and whilst it's only 2 or 3 points for that bonus, it does change things in my eyes. And what we've seen, like, he's attacking returns. He's great at getting forward and great at creating chances. So yeah, something I didn't need to think about my team, but I was given advice not to go to Newcastle. And if you look at the outcome last season, like, the move should have been made to Newcastle. And I don't know that I'm not falling into the trap of where I was given advice last season by not doing so as well, when he's been so consistent. And Newcastle, I don't think Newcastle need great fixtures for them to do well defensively. They had a good XGC stats for the 4 opening games, even though they hadn't kept a clean sheet. They were unlucky not to do so. So I'm yeah, I don't know that it's stubbornness, because I like the rest of my team, and I've not got a player that I want to take out. But as soon as I get an injury, or as soon as there's an opportunity, I've put a note to myself to make sure that I go through my notes on my phone to read it, saying, remembering, don't discount getting Trippier just because I've thought that he wasn't a great Sky asset in the past.
Look at the next 5 or 6 games, and I think they concede in a few of them. That's not really based on anything other than just look at the kind of teams they're playing. I think away to Wolves will be a tough one for them personally. I think it will. Home to Arsenal will obviously be a tough one for them as well. I think they might concede in both of those. Bournemouth probably not. Chelsea, home to Chelsea, not sure. Home to United, not sure. But I think
those are more difficult fixtures from an attacking perspective than a defensive perspective.
Yeah, potentially.
Personally.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I missed the boat personally for a while anyway. And just having a quick look how the fixtures fall as well. Mind you, they do all fall. Yeah, they all fall on Saturdays, so it makes it a little bit awkward, don't it, as well?
So for me, it would be if I got a midweek injury, or I came to a Friday press conference and someone had been injured in training or such like and been ruled out. Then I've taken a note to myself to consider Newcastle in any decision that I'm making. Not to say that I'll definitely pick a Newcastle player from there, but to make sure that I'm at least considering it.
Cool. And then looking at a lot of the questions we had about players to come in. So first, you've already mentioned Cole Palmer, 6.5 million. Looks like he's nailed his place in the team at the moment. Yep. Playing well, scored a couple of penalties as well. As I say, they're fixing not the best. Home to Brentford, it could be all right. Even away to Spurs might be all right from like an attacking view. City, Newcastle, Brighton United. Looking at, I suppose, though, the City and Newcastle ones will be tough offensively for them. I'm not too sure about Brighton and Man United. And after that, they go on an incredible run of Everton, Sheffield United, Wolves, Palace, Luton, and Fulham just before the overhaul. So it's not bad. Yeah, interesting you said about going for him over Nakamba.
Yeah, like I say, it's not I've got Nakamba and I'm not desperate to move Nakamba onto Palmer.
No, I understand that.
If you've got Bear in your team and you're not on 3 at the back and you can make the move, I think that I'd consider moving to Palmer.
That's exactly where I've got. That's why I'm asking the question, because I've got a plan over the next 2 weeks to bring Nakamba in. But tempted now to go with Palmer.
Do you know what's interesting? Like you and I were talking about our kind of overhaul teams like offline on Friday, and we were speaking about our teams, and we were both 0.1 short from getting where we want to get. And I know that you're doing it from the goalkeeper perspective, but I've found the route that I could do Luton play first, move on to Palmer, and then that frees up the 0.1 that I need to make the move. So I am loosely considering that over the next 2 or 3 weeks, but I don't want to be using too many transfers. And I had a plan which I'm roughly sticking to just now anyway, but that is an option for me as well. But yeah, and again, this could be if you don't have Nakamba or you don't have a budget enabler and you're looking to free up the money that after the Spurs game on Friday, that could be a downgrade which one of the Spurs players you want to Palmer perhaps on the Saturday, and then that gives you the money to upgrade Bear to someone that you want on either the Saturday or the Sunday. It could be if you haven't got Watkins yet, or like I mentioned, Bowen will be really popular over this next run as well, I think.
The only benefit of going for Nakamba is I think I'd be taking out a Chelsea. No, who'd I be taking out? No, it wouldn't. I need to think about it. Luton play the next day after Chelsea is the only thing I'm saying this weekend. I need to consider that with plans and stuff. But yeah, Palmer looks good. Saka, we had a lot of questions around. Is Saka essential? I'd like no one's essential, right? But he's had an incredible season and. Multiple points. I wouldn't want to be without him.
There was a question that came in about does Watkins cover him, but I don't know. I feel that it's not comparable because Watkins plays on Sunday this week, so it's all to do with captaincy in the Sky game and calendar day captaincy, and I think Saka will be the most popular captain this Saturday coming. That's not to say like if Arsenal keep a clean sheet, Saliba gets 10 points, and we know that Saliba's a good, consistent option this game, so he could match him in a one-off. I just penciled in Saka to be captain twice over the next 3 weeks, and therefore, yeah, I'd consider getting him in. If it's at the expense of using 2 transfers to get there, but with no fixture gains, then I might not consider that. But with the Tottenham situation just now, there's multiple avenues to daisy chaining to get downgrade to upgrade, and you're getting an extra fixture both ways.
Romero looks a good bet at the moment, definitely in the short term, probably in the long term because of his price as well, assuming he doesn't get injured and stuff. He's cut down on the bookings, he's not reckless. A couple of attacking returns. He seems to have come right to the fore. Coming in my team this evening. Yeah,
same. Yeah, I think Ian had talked about him a bit on last week's pod as well. I just think now that again Spurs are starting on, feels like the Spurs centre halves are starting on 5 points rather than 2 points with the passing bonus as well. So yeah, I'm gonna bring him in and as a long term hold, possibly through to overhaul.
I'm thinking of bringing in Salabra on the weekend, and we've had a couple of questions about him as well. Hard to argue against it, I suppose, especially if you've got some potential issues with the team like Colwell and maybe Bissouma, players like that, Saliba looks a pretty decent upgrade if you can get to him.
Yeah, and I think yeah, there's the sort of template back three, if you like. I think will be Dunk, Romero, and Saliba after next weekend. But there is a few players to throw in there. Say Tsimikas earlier on, 7.2.
Trippier.
Whilst he doesn't. Well, yeah, Trippier, Tsimikas, someone else that I was going to mention as well. I know a lot of people have got cash. You know, my stance on fullbacks, and all three of those are fullbacks, but it's more Tsimikas' price and Liverpool's fixtures that I liked. But yeah, again, cash at 7.7. Although it's not my cup of tea, and I wouldn't be getting him in with Villa's fixtures in particular over the short term. I think he could be a good asset too.
We've touched on the keepers as well. If you were to pick a keeper, if you were to pick a mid-price keeper, you know, the kind of Martinez, Areola, Vicario, even Pope, potential sort of Johnston, who would be your number one pick at the moment?
If they're all classed as mid-priced and budget wasn't an issue, then like Pope is obviously a standout there, I think. But Areola is a good bit cheaper than Pope and is the same price as Sanchez. So with them playing on Sunday, I do like West Ham's short-term fixtures, and he might be a hold through, or could hold them to the point that Fulham and Wolves play on the Monday night. And I know that there was a lot of chat last week about bringing Leno in. I'm actually looking the opposite way, and if I've got the funds at the time, I'm thinking of bringing Jose Sa would be my pick thereafter. I think Wolves' fixtures are really good after that. They've got one difficult fixture the direct week after, and then they're on a run after that. But yeah, like Sa's someone that I'm thinking of longer term, but I think Areola short term to allow things to move about at 6.6 is good value.
How much is Sa? 6.6.
No, he's more expensive.
More expensive.
I think it's more if I come at that point in time and I've got money from whatever moves I've made up until then.
I think Leno's 6.8. I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we've had some questions as well, just on a lot of people getting a bit bored of Johnston, just as I'm thinking of bringing him in. But looking at the fixtures, we've got Spurs on Friday at home. They then go Burnley, Everton, Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth, which is a pretty good run, I think. I think he's the top scoring keeper in the game, or he's definitely in the top three. After that, it gets a bit hairy. Liverpool, Man City, Brighton and Chelsea before the overhaul, but
that's about at the same time. That's about at the same time that you could move on to Leno or Sa for that single game day as well. So
it is, yeah. You get
could be a good chain move.
Yeah, you get the 4 games. So you get Spurs, Burnley, Everton, Luton, and then you could potentially move on then to just looking at Wolves' fixtures. So they would you'd have you'd have the single game day against Fulham. Then you'd have Arsenal, okay. But then it goes Burnley, Forest, West Ham, Chelsea, Brentford, Everton, which is quite decent actually for Sa. It's not too bad for Fulham either. So yeah, interesting one there. I'm just doing it purely for budgetary reasons. Like I say, I raised Alisson in. At least I got the clean sheet on the weekend. But
he's second only to Pope, and that's by 1 point.
1 point. There we go. Look at the fixtures for this weekend. So Spurs and Fulham. We've touched on it a bit already. Son best captain.
Yeah, I think he's got the highest ceiling, and I think he will be the most captained. So if you own him, I think I would be captaining him.
How many Spurs players not do you feel you need to have? Because some will have none, some will have 3, up to 3 or even 4 maybe. What
I could see Spurs winning 1-0. I could see Spurs winning 1-0 tonight, and if they do, Romero's probably going to be the top scorer in the game. In the game, so I don't think that you need a lot of Spurs players. I think the average amongst engaged managers is going to be slightly over 2 when you average it out, and therefore 2 should be enough for you to hold rank-ish. Obviously, if you're captain Halls and you've got 2, based on any of the spread of captaincies, you're going to do well and climb ranks. But I think two's fine if who you're bringing in. If you were just bringing in a player for the 2 games and it's not part of freeing up money or moving things around, then I wouldn't bother too much. If it's part of a longer plan and you're moving someone in, then moving someone out, and someone different out to free up that spot, then I understand that. As I say, I'm not ruling out taking one of the midfielders out after next Friday, and I'm bringing a Spurs player in, but I've got Bear who I want to get rid of, and I've got the money to do so.
Nice. And then looking ahead to this weekend, Palace and Spurs again. Like, there's no point going over that game because it's the same as Spurs.
Same outcome, yeah.
On Saturday, so we've mentioned this a couple of times already. Chelsea home to Brentford, Arsenal against Sheffield United, which looks prime for a nice captaincy punt for Saka there. Bournemouth and Burnley, Wolves and Newcastle. I might be doing something like Maddison to Saliba potentially. I think on Saturday, I think eat a bit of humble pie, but I think it was maybe a mistake to take Saliba out. But yeah, you held him. Well done. Any other comments for Saturday?
No, I think Saka's the best captaincy option there, but I think Saliba's a good alternative. Like, if you are, like I say, if you're doing the Bear upgrade combination and you see the Chelsea team and Cole Palmer starting and he's on penalties at home to Brentford, it could be a good outside punt. As I say, I would only do that if you're looking to downgrade the money because you want the money elsewhere to make an upgrade and you're shifting things around. To me, that makes sense.
Good shout on the camera with his bookings, by the way. He's on 3, so he'll very likely miss a game, won't he, before the overhaul. Seems there's like 9 or 10 games left. Sunday, West Ham would have some strange times on these matches. Oh, is it the Rugby World Cup final or something? Is this why the timings are like this?
Quite possibly. It's an Ian Parran question. It's a week out.
Week out. So West Ham Everton's on at 1:00. I don't think I've seen a 1:00 match for a long time on a Sunday.
Do you know what's frustrating on Sunday? If you're going to make moves, I'm like, there's not been that many surprises. There's certain teams that carry surprises when the team news come out, and perhaps Brighton's one actually, in fairness. Yeah. But like, you expect Villa to be lining up with Cash, Watkins, and Gabby most likely, and you expect Salah to be playing for Liverpool and Tsimikas to be playing. I'm thinking of popular players that if you didn't own, who you'd be bringing in. But it is quite frustrating that there's 3 2:00s, which is exactly an hour after the first kickoff, so you can't see the tip lineups unless there's any leaks.
Liverpool Forest is at 2:00. Brighton, Fulham, Villa, Luton, United, City then at 3:30. So yeah, the reason kind of ask is very interesting captaincy options. Like Haaland, whenever he plays, is the go-to default, right? Like normally. I think there's only been one time this season when they were away to Arsenal and Liverpool had Brighton a couple of weeks ago where we kind of deferred away from him. But Liverpool against Forest, obviously Salah's in incredible form at the moment. Lovely home game. Yeah. And Villa, who are also on fire at the moment, scoring goals for fun, are home to Luton, who are just a bit of a mess at the back as well. So let's see some fireworks on Sunday.
Be an interesting poll. Be an interesting poll goes out. I think Salah will come out on top, and I think Watkins will be second, and then I think Haaland will be third.
I think I agree. I saw a stat yesterday. I'm wildcarding this week in FPL. I'm thinking of going without Haaland. One of the you're laughing your head off scenes where in cast leagues and stuff. I saw a stat yesterday that Man City in their 4 home games this season haven't accumulated more than 1.3 xG, and that only happened once in their 19 home games last season. I think there's definitely. So
you're deciding to do it in a week. So you're deciding to do it in a week where Man City are away from home. Oh, that makes sense on that stat.
I was like forward thinking about the wild cards because they're home to Bournemouth next week, which would be a scary proposition without him. But my point is, City are not the free flowing 4-5-6-0 City at the moment that we're used to. I suppose what I'm saying. Does this And because we would captain Haaland in a heartbeat last year, no matter who he's playing, even the start of this season. If we had this fixture a month ago, this fixture set for this day, we would still be on Haaland, I think. It's probably fair to say. So,
possibly, yeah.
Has your thinking changed around Haaland at all, or are you just saying, no, it's just a blip, he'll be good?
Yeah, for me, it's just a blip. And I think in Sky in particular, I don't think that his price is, when you compare his price to the others, I don't feel that there's a gulf in price as much as perhaps other formats of fantasy. And therefore, I can understand the decision more in the other games, whereas in this one, it's less of a decision for me.
Cool. Thanks for all the questions we had, everyone. I think we've managed to answer most, if not all of them, as we've gone through. Just to answer Donny's one in the chat, he says he's new to Sky this year. I have no Spurs for tonight. He's planning Salah and Mbeumo, I think, to Son and Romero. Captain on Son for the next 2, then back to Salah next Sunday for his captain. Does it feel okay? 8 transfers used so far. Probably feels quite sensible, actually. You're using 3 transfers, but he's only used 8.
I never like doing the take a player out for another player and then move back directly to that player. I don't know why.
Yeah, I agree, but I think in this instance, because he's getting Romero in as part of the deal as well for Mbeumo. Yeah,
you could do that. But you could do that anyway.
You could. I wouldn't advise it playing that way all season, but it's quite rare actually that a top team has a game on a Monday and a Friday, 2 for 0, I think as well. And the player has as high ownership as they had. If it was like Saka or Salah or Haaland, we would probably all do it, I think. So I think on this occasion I would, but I would say don't make a habit of it, would be my advice. What do you think?
I'm a bit more on the fence.
I
don't disagree, Andrew. I'm
corporate bastard. I don't disagree. Just having a quick look to see if we had any more questions which we haven't answered. I think we've handed most actually.
Romero or Dunk to overhaul. Who scores more points? You get 1 extra game out of Romero.
It's a really good question. I think both of them get tier 2 in every game, or 95% of games. I suppose what you think is more goal threat and which would have the better fixtures. So I'd probably go for Dunk still, personally. How about you? I just love Dunk.
Yeah. If you've got an injured player, like say you've got Bear just now, I'd probably just move to Romero because you get an extra game out of it then. Yeah. And I think it will be close as well. If they had the same number of games, I'd probably go Dunk. But yeah, if you've got an injured player like Bear, then I'd move to Romero.
Good stuff. And that is it for us for this week. As usual, thank you so much for those watching and listening. Your continued support, interaction, engagement, everything is so much appreciated. You wouldn't believe it. And thank you so much, Paul. Great to have you back, even if you are talking in a like different tone nowadays. Where can people find you?
Different tone and not into the microphone.
I'm not into the microphone.
I got a row. You gave me a row live on air earlier on.
I didn't give you a row. I just said, would you mind just speaking into the microphone a little bit more? Because otherwise everyone would have had to turn their dial up and down for the last hour, so 40 minutes.
I class that as a row.
On sensitive Twitter as well.
On Twitter at Paul McAnulty 1 MCANULTY. And we are just about to record Nip and a Half podcast, which is free. Download it from Spotify. I've not spoke to Fergi much about any of the other fantasy formats, so it'll be good to catch up on that.
You stop shouting. Can you just move a bit away from the microphone? my handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergie. If you like what you watch, please press the like button. We really, really appreciate it. It really does help, honestly. And remember to subscribe in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen if you haven't already. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast versions and leave some comments. If you haven't actually done that, and you do listen on the podcast versions, again, we would really appreciate it. It takes about 10 seconds, 5 stars, leave a nice review. It really does help. We really appreciate it. We'll be back next week previewing Sky Game Week 13. Wish you the very best of luck for tonight and for Game Week 12. And goodbye for now.